We're supposed to clap. Yeah, how come we don't do that anymore?
Okay. Today's topic is burn-in.
Burn-in.
As in burn-in.
Okay. Want to talk about our drivers then?
Not the same as burn-out.
Planar magnetic burn-in?
Yeah.
That's the thing I think most people attribute as an actual phenomenon.
Yeah.
Right? There's a mechanical thing. It's moving.
Yeah.
It may change as it moves a bit more.
Yeah.
Right? There's all kinds of stuff going on. How it's mounted.
Yeah.
Right? On our system.
The material it's made of.
Yep. We have a elastomer layer that's holding the diaphragm in place, which certainly can change its performance slightly with the mechanical cycling and thermal cycling. Yeah, there's all kinds of coatings going on.
Kind of like a woofer. You look at a bass driver, it's
similar
got a surround.
enough, yeah, same thing.
You know, and the motion of the woofer. Woofers break in the
Yeah.
surround, the glues that hold the surround. Everything in a way is changing because of the mechanical motion over time, and it will certainly change slightly the sound of it.
Yeah, they loosen up. You know,
Yeah.
I know particularly with our headphones, they definitely help in the bass
Yeah.
with break-in. That's the biggest change, I'd say.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes a long time though. I mean, even at relatively high playing volumes,
Yeah.
it still takes a couple 100 hours before it's fully not
Yeah.
going to change anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
when it gets there,
Yeah,
it's friggin' phenomenal.
yeah,
So I guess you could say a new headphone is going to be a little tauter than
yeah.
a well-heeled
Typically,
headphone.
yeah.
Yeah. I think that goes for dynamics too and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Like, we don't make those headphones, and I haven't broken one in, so I'm not sure how long it would take or how much of a change it occurs. But I know with the planers, because it is a very thin tensioned membrane, that even a tiny bit of change can affect the low frequency response a little bit,
Yeah.
a lot of it. But,
Well, the initial like 10 to 20 hours are probably the biggest change,
yeah,
and then it's very gradual after that.
yeah,
But it will continue for a few 100 hours. Yeah, we put a couple dozen hours on them before they ship. Yeah. So the process has already started. People don't really actually see the full effect of break-in per se, because by the time
Yeah.
you get it, already has 30 hours or so on it.
yeah.
But yeah, there is still definitely some benefits.
30 hours at quite a high level.
At high level, yeah.
Yeah.
It would be like 115 dB or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the break-ins our break-in through QC
It's a little
with the
aggressive.
drivers is made to weed out any problems.
Yep.
If it makes it past that, you're good to go. Not only is the headphone breaking in, but so are the cables,
Yep.
the cable hooked up, connected to it.
At the same time,
Yeah,
they're both breaking in.
yeah, and I mean cables. To me, I've done cables for decades, and you've done them for most of your life too. You've listened to them. They change.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care if someone says they do or don't. We're telling you they do, and typically it's to the better. Particularly in our case where we design the cable to sound a certain way after it's broken in.
Right. Yeah. That's actually a fair point.
We know the end game
Yeah.
of the cable design.
Yeah.
So in our case, for sure, it's definitely going to get better. Sometimes cables go the other way
Yeah.
from other manufacturers. I mean, you
could.
can go from bright to brighter, and dull to darker, or
I think that's probably a common sticking point for a lot of people. There's a surprising amount of people that don't believe things do break in, even mechanical systems. And cables, of course, is a little bit less clear to discern what exactly is going on. But
yeah,
I think why generally things tend
It's
to
confusing.
improve.
right? Because if a headphone's breaking in and the cable's breaking in,
Yeah.
how do you know? How
What's
do you
changing?
know?
Yeah.
If you've never done this where you've listened through break-ins on both pieces,
Yeah.
you don't know what's causing what. The same thing happens in any auto system. Anytime you make it more than one change.
Yeah, but you always have the cognitive break-in, right? There's
Yeah.
always you wearing into the gear to
Well,
some
that's certainly
extent.
part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know like whenever we're making changes to the headphones, we have a bunch of broken cables already, so then we're always using the same
ones,
cables.
right?
Yeah. So that's
But-
not a variable.
But new out of the box,
Yeah.
people have to deal with that too.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's about 2 weeks in our case. Like I usually tell people, well,
It depends
let's
on
go
what
in
you play,
hours.
yeah.
Yeah. I would say it's about 75 to 100 hours for the cable break-in.
Yeah.
And it's about more than that for the headphone, the way you see it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking a good 100, 150 hours on a headphone at moderate levels is usually sufficient for most people.
Yeah.
Then you got guys that are doing critical listening, right, where they're comparing against something, whatever, that they've had for a year and it's got all kinds of time on it. You know, that-
Well, if you start
that
A-being
takes time.
cables, that's a little challenging there too, right? Because
Sure.
some of these guys, they get 2, 3, 4 different cables because they're super excited about their headphone and they don't have that many hours on their cable. And maybe some designs break in more or less,
Right.
but if you're comparing cables in different states, it can be a bit challenging if they do exhibit some degree of break-in.
Yeah, and you don't even know how that cable's going to interact with the rest of the gear, too.
Well, sure.
You know, if you get a whole new system, just let it play. Like,
Yeah.
I'll tell you right now, don't sweat it. Give it a few weeks, let it play, let everything, break in. And another thing important too, especially with gear like at this level of resolution, is it's good to have this stuff warm. Solid state amps shouldn't be cold
Yeah.
when you first turn them on. And I mean, people that own them, I think they start to figure that out over time.
Yeah.
Where there's actually a short-term break-in every time you use it. If it's off compared to on, and it's most gears about an hour or so to warm up.
Well, especially DACs and stuff that doesn't take that much power.
Yeah.
It takes longer to warm up.
Yeah, and decks tend to sound a little bit less critical, a little more warmer actually when they're warm.
Yeah.
It's, believe it or not, In fact, I love like Class A amps that run warm. They just tend to have a high bias. They're drawing some juice continuously. There's not a lot of variation there, and once they come up to temp, they tend to sound the sweetest. So particularly solid state. Tubes, I don't know. I mean, once the tube amp breaks in, I'm not sure. A couple minutes you might be good to go. I don't know. I
Yeah.
haven't really.
They do run hot.
They tend to warm up pretty quick on their own.
You skimmed over the design briefly earlier,
Of
and
Oh,
how
yeah.
design impacts break-in. And I think that's a fair point. So for us, at least in the headphones and the driver, the design, of course, is such that in steady state, once it is broken in, it's nominal. It's the desired result, effectively. And so that's why you tend to see a positive benefit from break-in, because most people design so that when it's broken in, when it has some use on it, you have this long period where it's in the right state, basically. It's worn into how you want it to be rather than wearing out right out of the gate, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why it tends to be positive over and over.
Yeah,
Because
it's-
people don't design for brand new right out of the box.
And to more define that too, us as designers understand the break-in curve.
Well, it's
So
helpful.
when we
Yeah.
have, so when I'm saying is when we have a brand new headphone, let's say we're prototyping whatever, and we hear it sound, we know which way it's gonna go after 150, 200 hours. We
More or
already
less,
know.
yeah.
So we can compensate in our minds for, we could separate the break-in component from the sound of it,
But I think most of the time, if possible, I would rather get like 50, like a weekend on it before I actually do anything.
Oh, for critical, sure, yeah. No, we never make rash
But
judgments
yeah,
even.
but yeah,
brand new
you
out-
have an idea, but yeah, still.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's the only way to really, really
Yeah.
know, and to be consistent too in the way you do things. Absolutely, I agree. You got to put
Yeah.
you always got to put time on it to really know. It's the same with cable designs too. It's the same with cables. When I would prototype a cable, and you try different dielectrics and stuff like that, or the way the dielectrics applied, you got to give it the time. You've got to figure out where it might go. And I mean, after decades of doing it, you're pretty much already going to know where it's going. But you don't want to get caught off guard. Like, you don't want to go and say, okay, let's make 100,000 feet of this cable, and then
Yeah.
find out it sounds like doggy doo-doo when it's broken in. So you always absolutely want to get to a final state to really tell where stuff is going. The other thing, too, with break-in, like we talked about it, is people break-in.
Yeah.
Like when you get a new headphone, right?
Yeah.
It's like going into a different room with speakers.
Yeah.
It's a totally different acoustic.
For us, I think that's a bigger challenge for most people, because we tend to have non-traditional fits and a little bit different sound signature than most other people see on the market.
Yeah,
We're going for more of an open two-channel sound.
very open.
And so for us, I think a lot of people, it takes a little bit of effort for them to get used to the sound to really understand and discern detail and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Usually it seems like a day or two.
Yeah.
People listening to it, they're
Right.
like, oh, now I get it.
Right.
You know?
And over that period, maybe the headphone is breaking in to some degree, but I think the majority of what the perception is the actual person getting used to it.
I've seen some people take weeks.
Yeah.
I think it depends on what you're used to listen to,
Or what,
if
yeah,
anything.
Yeah.
Some people are just never had headphones like this at this level, or never had speakers at a level like that. So for them, it's essentially overload at the beginning,
Yeah.
and the brain has to get used to listening to that acoustic. It's the brain starts like, you've changed rooms before, right?
Yeah.
You recall what it does when you
Yeah.
first get in? Like,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, everything just sounds wrong.
Yeah.
You're like, and then after a while, you can't
Well, you're
hear
hearing-
it. You can't hear it like that anymore.
Yeah, but you're hearing like mistakes in the
Yeah,
room,
yeah.
right? The acoustics, like
And then eventually just
shit's
go
coming
away.
from places you never heard it before. Like, what's that going on over there? Or, why am I hearing a rattle behind me, or something like that? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, the brain kind of over the course of a few weeks, kind of, I don't know what it does.
Yeah.
It starts to exclude that.
Yeah.
And focuses more on what you're trying to listen to, which I guess was what we're humans are geared for. You know, we learn to listen for dinosaurs coming at us or something like that. You know,
Right.
run, you know. So yeah, I mean, I could see, you know, where we're just kind of geared for the brain getting accustomed to, otherwise you wouldn't be able to sleep if every little noise bothered you
Well,
forever,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you'd have problems.
I guess that's a pretty good example.
Yeah.
Because like in a hotel or something like that, new noises kind of be
Yeah.
startling.
Right.
But
Yeah.
in your house, you could have a loud noise
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you don't think anything of it. It
No,
doesn't wake you up,
no, 'cause
right?
you heard it a
ignore
1,000 times.
Yeah, it's the same thing, right?
And I think all animals are like that. Like my cats are like that too.
Oh, yeah.
Any new thing you bring in, they know right away by the sound
Yep.
of it.
Yep.
Versus old stuff. They've never gotten used to the smoke detectors going.
Oh
off.
yeah, well they don't go off very often, so
Yeah, it scares the crap
it's
out of them.
not much to get used to.
And
there.
doorbells they don't like either because
Yeah.
usually it means a stranger. But yeah, but anyway, yeah, you can see what I mean. So I think we're as humans, it's innate in us to grow accustomed to a particular acoustic, and it's
Yeah.
kind of wild how the brain can
Yeah.
exclude
Yeah.
the environment and
Right.
focus on like the vocals or the piano and stuff. What you're trying to actually listen to.
The challenge there, though, is if that happens with a familiar headphone that you spend a lot of time with, if this headphone has significant flaws, this is your standard, this
Well,
is your
that's true.
reference, right? And so transitioning to something else, it can be a bit startling
Right.
at first. And for me, the most powerful thing isn't necessarily going to a higher performance headphone, it's going back to where you were, and then you really could tell the difference. That,
That's true,
to me,
yeah.
is the most powerful thing.
It may not be startling. It could be lacking. Like you could go to something like ours and go, "Well, I used to hear something like this. I used to hear this or that before in my old headphone. Now I don't hear that as prominently or whatever." And it's more likely the case that with the old headphone, there was a reflection or the materials it was made of had a peak somewhere that stood out, and now the peak's gone. So a lacking could happen too. But then again, once again, you get used to that. And then, like you said, you go back and you're going, well, usually you'll go back and go, this thing doesn't sound anywhere on it.
Yeah.
It's not good anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And that's progress, really. That's moving forward. It's
Hopefully.
moving into more highly refined sound. I've seen it all the time in 2-channel. It was the same thing with speakers and stuff and equipment, you know? Some people were always within the same price range of stuff for obvious reasons. They couldn't afford $200,000 pair of speakers. Who the hell can,
Yeah.
right? And so, you know, you're always stuck in kind of a similar price class for equipment and speakers, and you never really get outside of that, you know. And going to a trade show might help a bit, but yeah, you know, most of the rooms and stuff ain't perfect at a trade show. It's not your house. So what I'm getting at is, you know, you could easily be accustomed to, like you said, a particular sound. And,
Oh yeah.
you know, and then you go outside of that into a completely different realm, and it is of quite a change, you know. But just accept it, just get used to it, try to get used to it, listen to it, give it time. That's all.
Well, there was an example that I always remember. It was like CES, like 7 or 8 years ago, and the guy walked into our room, and we were playing Usher speakers,
Yeah.
and he walked in, didn't listen to it, and just said, "Oh, box speakers. They probably sound like boxes," and then walked out. So he doesn't even want to hear anything that's
Yeah.
not what he's accustomed to.
He's probably used to a planer or
Yeah,
something like that,
yeah,
or
yeah.
some sort of bipolar.
You see
design.
that stuff
Yeah.
every now
Yeah.
and then.
I don't even
People
wanna
just
hear
don't
it.
care.
Same
No
with
interest.
tubes in solid state.
Yeah.
They look at the amp, go, tubes, I don't like
Yeah.
that. You know,
Yeah.
they assume. Yeah,
Yeah.
they make assumptions.
So you don't want to get past that initial learning phase.
It's a shame
relearning.
too, but I understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
I could get that.
What are you going to do?
Yeah, those two different designs and speakers do sound
Well, yeah,
dramatically different.
that they do.
One's really critical on setup more than the other too. When you get an open back and the planar designs is way more critical of the room.
Yeah.
But that's a subject for another video. You know, we'll cover that later. We're getting
Yep.
off topic on it.
Good Yeah,
point to
yeah.
wrap it
As
up.
Yeah.
usual. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Tends to happen.
anyway, yeah, break-in's real. It happens, and you know, anything you get new, just give it some time. It's not a big deal. So anyway, thanks for watching our videos, and please click subscribe. Keep in mind when we hit 1,000 subscribers, we're going to run over something.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a video just before this, I think, or a few before this, about
Yep.
what we're going to run over. But yeah, we're going to run over something, and thanks for watching. Thanks.